Did that cancellation impact, how you've trained in the time since? Like, did you do any additional days of, live goes or just to compensate for that? Or did you look at it more as, well, this is just a chance to get the squad healthy heading into the postseason?
We didn't find out till like the day before. So, we worked out that day, and I think we might have lifted the day of the actual event, which was a Friday. So we might have got one extra lift in, but in retrospect, maybe it helped us. We had a couple guys that had little nagging injuries, nothing major, but, you take the opportunity. We gave them a couple days after that, like Saturday and Sunday. They were off the mat Friday. We lifted weights. We gave them a few more days of maybe healing their bodies, before we got into some hard training, for the Big 12 championships.
Thanks.
Go ahead, Joe.
4 wrestlers ranked. Your dual record has improved this year, but is the Big 12 tournament a good indicator of how you're making progress year to year?
Well, I think as a team, we've certainly taken a step up. Now I think this lets each individual where they kind of stand. So this is not only a team sport event, but obviously you can go out and win an individual Big 12 championship. So I would say it gives them a good kind of gauge as to where they are, not only in the Big 12 but nationally at their weight classes.
Do you have in your mind a number of guys that you think can qualify for nationals? Not that you'll say what that is, but I mean, do you have in your head what you think that number should be?
I try not to, hopefully it's 10, but, if you go by rankings and, obviously, the first 2 weight classes are nationally ranked, and then obviously Peyton and Noah Adams are ranked, and the other guys aren't, so if you go just by rankings, there you have it. But we're hoping that a few of these guys that have been, really all of our guys have shown some promise, I guess. They all have shown signs that they can compete at a high level. And if we can get them to do that, this weekend, we'll have more than that 4 number.
So to kind of follow up on that question a little bit, I'm going to ask you to maybe go back to the beginning of the season and look at, and I know this is different for every individual wrestler, but maybe comment a little bit on how you've seen your team progress and how they've improved, obviously, from the beginning of the regular season to the conclusion of that and now the postseason. Again, I know it's different per person, but are there some maybe team-wide traits or trends that stick out to you?
Yeah, I think, you can look at our first 2 weight classes, and they're kind of, the team maybe follows some of what they've done. Killian had a slow start. I think, he was obviously performing at his best, at the very beginning. And he's really, I think he's wrestling way better now, so his wrestling's improved, and some of it's just getting some competition. His body looks good. I don't know. I know he's been dinged up. He looks healthier. And then Ryan Sullivan, he wasn't even down at the weight to start the year, but he's really kind of got his weight under control and managed that part of it. And he's really, given us a boost for sure. Another really solid guy in the lineup. So, but I think the whole team's like that. I think we've been slowly kind of improving. And hopefully it culminates in a good Big 12 tournament.
Thanks.
Tim, how competitive is that 197-pound bracket when you've got Noah coming in as the 3 seed?
It's really competitive. I have a lot of respect for all those kids at the, at the weight. The kid who's the number 1 seed, obviously Noah beat in the Big 12 finals last year. He won a national freestyle championship this past year, age level university level, 20, I think it's 25 and under. I forget, 23 and under. So, he's a really solid guy. We've had some wars with, Buchanan and with Woodley, and the Ferrari kid's solid. So it's a really deep weight class. So, I'm excited. I think Noah's he's ramped it up a notch. So I'm hoping that, we have a really good showing, and I think we will.
To kind of follow up a little bit on that question again, is there any part of you, I know you've talked about this earlier in the season, that, your goal is to win now. You want to qualify 10 for NCAAs and you want to take home, a Big 12 title. But is there any part of you that does, when you have a sort of stacked weight class like that, where you sort of emphasize the kind of the survive and advance technique of it, in that, a title is nice, but the ultimate goal is qualifying and getting as many as you can to nationals? Or is it more of sort of a balanced approach?
I mean, I think, ultimately to be the kind of competitor you want to be or you want in your lineup, you want to win now. And I think last year showed us, right? Tomorrow's not guaranteed. We went to the Big 12s and Noah won a Big 12 championship, and we didn't go to the NCAA tournament. So, if that's going to happen this year, then, by God, I want to win 10 Big 12 championships. It's kind of hard because you want to have patience with these young kids. But on the other hand, it's when you're a patient guy and you're like, oh, we're going to be good next year comes and you're the same guy. So we need athletes that are thinking about winning right now, and so that's what we're thinking. I mean, obviously we know, who we have, and we know that some of them are young and inexperienced, but on the other hand, these kids have won their whole lives, so Braden Roberts, didn't have the greatest Big 12 record, but the kid's won his whole life, at every level. So, it's not crazy for him to get to the Big 12 tournament and have a great showing and qualify for the nationals. It's won't shock us at all.
Any other questions?
I have a couple more. I just wanted to make sure I wasn't hogging it. But so sort of with that and following up on your last response, you obviously do have a very young team. And for a lot of your guys, this is their first postseason and this is their first conference tournament. With that, have you had to sort of change preparations or do anything different to kind of prep them for that? Because again, there are very few people in your starting lineup that have that experience at a tournament like this.
We don't talk about it a lot. We talk about just day-to-day preparation, what we're going to do today. Because I think if you sit and talk too much about, hey, you're going to the Big 12 tournament, or hey, you want to be a national champion, it almost builds that event into more than it is. It's just another wrestling tournament with, 12 people in it. It's not, I don't know. We just don't want to make more of it than it is. These kids have wrestled their whole lives and they've been in, big time matches. So as far as talking about it and prepping that way, we haven't talked about it much. We'll probably, touch base with them today a little bit about, just the event and maybe when we get out there. But yeah, just business as usual, trying to get our work in, doing the things we know we need to do to, to be successful.
And I guess just sort of my final question before we wrap it up here is, so you've mentioned that in previous interviews that at this point in the season, you're not trying to reinvent the wheel. Your preparation, you can't make sort of sweeping changes to it. So if you could elaborate on just what have these last couple of weeks and couple practices consisted of in terms of getting ready? What's going into it? What are some of the focal points of your preparation in the room?
Well, individually, there's individual things like, hey, you need to circle in off the edge, or you need to square your hips when the guy shoots. You got to get your legs back. But you know, as a team, it's just a matter of shortening the practices. We want to be more fresh. We want to be healthy, but we want to pack more work into less time, if that makes sense. So short, intense practices, short, intense conditioning, shorter, intense lifting, trying to really maximize our time in the room, you know, but also, again, keep these guys, try to freshen them up, so to speak, so that our legs are fresh, our minds are fresh, you know, and we're ready to compete.